Welcome back, artists. Now that my border is done, I'm ready to start working on my design. My plan is to do a back stitch for the letters. So I picked my yarn out and I cut a piece about 2 arms length long. You don't want to go much longer than that because it will tend to tangle on you. And then I'm going to get started. So I'm going to begin by, as usual, threading my needle, folding the yarn over the needle, pinching it so it's nice and small, wiggling it over the needle so it pops through. Because this string is kind of long, I'm going to double this over quite a bit so that I don't have to pull it quite so much when I'm sewing. And I need to make a knot on the end. So remember, we make a knot by making an X on our finger, rolling it off our finger, turns into sort of a tangled mess. That's actually what we want. And then we put our fingers on top and squish it down. And that makes a substantial knot that will stay in the back of the fabric. I'm going to start with the K here, and I'm going to start on the bottom. So I'm looking for my line, and I'm going to come up from the back. Whenever you start a stitch, you always come up from the back. So then I pull it through. I'm not pulling really tight. I want it snug, but I'm not pulling really hard because chances are it's going to pop through. And I would say the length of a stitch is probably 2 or 3 boxes. It's about as far as you want to go. So here I'm going 1, 2, 3 boxes up. I'm going to come down. And then I'll count another 1, 2, 3 boxes and come up. And again, I'm pulling this snug, so there's not any leftovers on the back, but not to the point where it's changing the dimensions of the material. So then I go back to fill in this space. And I go to the same stitch that I did before. So I take 1 step forward and then I go 1 step back. So here I'm going forward and back. Now here I have 2 ways that I can go. I can either go this way or this way. I'm going to finish going up this way and I will come back and do the other one, and I'll show you how we can do that in the back, so that you don't see any extra material on the front. So I'm just going to keep going up this track. And I like to hold the material between my fingers so I can see what I'm doing. And then going back. And then this will be my last stitch going up here. And then I go back down. So I finished this first line. Oops, now you can notice here that I have a tail. So my part that's overlapping is too short now. So now I have to pull on the string to make this tail a little bit smaller. Now that I have my string in the back, I'm going to actually go back to where I left off over here, and I'm going to continue my stitch over here. And I'm just going to continue doing this. Oops, now if I pull tight, do you see how that can wrinkle the material? You have to be careful there so that you leave it flat, at least for that first stitch. Then you do 3 forward. And back. And just taking your time and doing your best to follow your lines. So here I finished this stitch. Now I need to, again, I'm in the back, which is where I want to be, and then I can go back down here to where my other part of the K is to finish my letter. And I'm just going to keep doing this until all of my letters have been stitched. Now that I have finished my stitching, I have my word all finished. On the back, I have a string that I need to make sure I have a knot on it. So I'm going to just go under my last stitch, and it's right here, so I don't have to go far, and that makes a loop in the yarn. Now before this loop closes, I want to go through that loop with my needle, and then I'm going to pull it tight. And then to make sure this is a double knot, I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Go under, make a loop. Before that loop closes, I put my needle through it and I tie a knot. I make sure that it's nice and snug, and then I can trim my yarn. I don't want to trim it right at the knot because that will cause the knot to come undone. And here I have my back stitch all finished. So now I just have a little more work to do on my bee, and then I'll be done.